Hello, ServeWellers. Guess what? We're talking about the SAT and the ACT again this week. I know, I can tell you're super excited about this. Please try to contain your enthusiasm. In all seriousness, if you're new to ServeWell Academy, you will soon realize that one of my top priorities is teaching you how, when, and why to prepare for standardized tests. And to all of you sophomores out there who have been with me since last year, some even earlier than that, you know what I'm talking about. I talk about this topic a lot, especially now as we're moving into summer. And that should indicate that this is not something to take lightly. As most of us know by now, test optional policies remain pretty widespread, which means that you're not technically required to submit an SAT or an ACT score in most cases. And that colleges and the media continue to suggest that not requiring test scores is a good thing for students and will somehow ease the stress of college admissions. Well, I don't believe that's the case, especially if your goal is to attend a service academy or earn an ROTC scholarship. I know it's tempting and convenient to buy into the story that the SAT doesn't matter anymore, but please resist that temptation. It's important to take standardized tests seriously. Because the truth is, if you don't take them seriously, then you're not serious about the process. Students have been preparing and taking the SAT and the ACT for decades, and there's no reason to stop now. And here's why. Service academies and ROTC programs are serious about screening for academically motivated students who want to demonstrate in every possible way that they are up for the academic challenge. Preparing and doing well on these tests is one of many ways to do that, and I personally would not leave anything on the table. The competition is just too tough. So, if you're with me and ready to crush this test, your next question should be, okay, which test should I take? The SAT or ACT? How do I prepare for it? And when should I plan on taking my first official test? Well, I'm glad you asked. Next week, I will address the which test should I take question. The week after that, I will address the how do I prepare question. And this week, I will cover the when should I take my first official test question. And as part of this lesson, I will ask you to actually register for a primary and a backup test date. My suggestion is that you take your first official SAT or ACT in the August, September, October, November timeframe of your junior year. This gives you the entire summer to study. It gets the test out of the way before your academic life really starts to heat up in the fall. By the way, as an aside, this is typically contrary to the advice given to most generic high schoolers in their schools. Typical high schoolers take their first SAT or ACT test in the spring of their junior year, not the fall. But as we know, you are not typical. You are a ServeWeller, and you're going well beyond your average Joe Blow student. Let's go over a few more reasons why taking this test in the fall might be a good idea for you. Number one, by taking an early test, you ensure that you have plenty of time to recover in case the test doesn't go well, or maybe you get sick, or there's an emergency, or there's a worldwide pandemic, or there's some other slip up. In my son's case, he took his first SAT September of his junior year. He misbubbled his test, and he had to cancel it on his way out. But he took it again on his backup date in November. He crushed it and never looked back. Number two, if you're an athlete hoping to get recruited, it's better to provide coaches with an early SAT score, assuming it's a good one. Because without an SAT score, as great as you say you are, coaches will be reluctant to invest too much time and energy in you because they'll be wasting their time if you can't deliver an acceptable SAT score. Which brings me to point number three, and the premise behind ServeWell Academy, which is that early is almost always better than late. This is especially the case when it comes to the military and the admissions process for the military. You will soon be applying for congressional nominations. You will be asking teachers for letters of recommendation, filling out service academy applications, maybe applying early to ROTC colleges. So the sooner you have all of the relevant parts of your application done, the better. Taking an early test also sends you a signal. Have you achieved an SAT or an ACT score consistent with your expectations and goals, whether it's for the Naval Academy or for West Point or for Princeton ROTC. If you're pulling a 950 or an 1100 on the SAT, then you've got some major league work to do. And if you don't figure this out until late into your junior year, it's probably too late for you to recover, and you've probably wasted a lot of time spinning your wheels unnecessarily. If you get an early score, assuming you prepared for it, and it's not to your liking, you still have time to recover. You can either study more or hire a tutor or practice more or whatever it takes to reach your goal. Number 4, another reason to study this summer, even if it turns out that you didn't score as well as you'd hoped, or that you want to try a few more tests anyway, is that you've gotten the bulk of your studying done already. You've done 80% of the hard work during the summer, and if you want to continue studying and practicing and refining, great, but the heavy lifting is done, and that is a huge weight off your shoulders. And speaking of taking more tests, unlike some traditional colleges, the service academies don't penalize you for taking multiple tests. In fact, they sometimes encourage applicants to take several tests because most of the service academies will superscore your tests, meaning they will take your best scores on each section, even from different test dates, and combine them into a single super score. By the way, these policies periodically change, so confirm whether or not your service academy will in fact superscore. So by taking an early test, it gives you more time to take more tests, which may translate into a better super score. However, don't take this the wrong way. You should still study and prepare for the test as if it's your only one. Don't take official SAT and ACT tests as practice. And don't count on taking, 7, 8, 9 SAT tests, hoping to luck out on a few of them. That strategy would be expensive. It would waste a lot of time. Okay, if you're on board, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. If you already know which test you're going to prepare for and take, it's time to register. If you're still debating which test to take, next week I will walk you through how to figure that out once and for all. For those of you ready to register, make sure you're checking your calendar for conflicts. Look for sporting events, family activities, holidays, anything that might get in the way of taking that test. Once you've cleared that weekend you want, register for the test. Now you're in the game. You should then put that test date on your calendar in big red letters and make sure your parents know about it so they don't schedule something on top of it. Also, ding, pro tip, consider registering for the test one town over from yours. Why is that? Because sometimes when you go to the local test site and you see your friends there, it stresses you out or it distracts you. You don't need that. Maybe it's better to go to a place where you don't know anyone and you take your test in anonymous bliss. Then I want you to register for at least one more time for one backup test because you never know what might happen. Okay, I think you're ready to rock and roll. Go register for 2 tests, a primary and a backup. If you still need to decide SAT or ACT, be ready to do so after next week's lesson. Until next week, continue to study hard, play hard, and don't forget to serve others.